Hey everyone, and welcome to Grenades and Horseshoes, where we strive to bring good times, good feels, and general shenanigans every Wednesday night at 9 PM Eastern.
It means to say 9:30 p.m. Eastern. Here for
You
grenades.
took the words out of my brains.
Yeah. So we're insulting Jelly from the past, who said exactly what we asked him to say. Thank you, Jelly, for doing that for us. Episode 34 of Grenades and Horseshoes is upon us. I am Mark Square, as I am every week, and this is Grey Ghost.
Good evening, everybody.
And Yuna Lala.
Hi.
And as per usual, I have a question for you guys. I'm going to set the scene. Imagine for a moment you are a toilet paper company and you're very proud of your crappy business that you've built up. And you win a contest, though, to rename your competitor's toilet paper brand. What do you name it?
All right. I'm gonna pick my competitor's brand. I'm gonna name it 20 Grit. That's they have to market their product as 20 Grit TP.
Oh, ouch!
Yeah.
For you, sandpaper not sandpaper fans out there, that is a grain of sandpaper. So you would have some raw butakas after that.
Somebody's going to at me on Twitter. I believe it because they're going to tell me I'm wrong. But I did a little research, and I think the lowest grit of sandpaper is 24. So 20 grit, right? And lower is worse. That's actually the grain size is larger on that sandpaper.
Right.
20 grit doesn't even exist. So you're saying that my toilet paper is actually more just abrasive than the most abrasive sandpaper you can legally purchase in the United States.
Oh, wow. But you'd be really clean, but you would also...
You'd probably be a little bloody.
A little raw.
Yeah.
A little bloody.
Yeah. You're like,
right.
do I need a colonoscopy or is it just my toilet paper?
Exactly. Yes. There has to be a warning right on the label. Do not use it if you have hemorrhoids. You cannot use this toilet paper. All right, Yuna, what do you got for your TP competition?
2-ply tushy tears.
Oh.
Tushy tears. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's like super thin and it just rips. It's like just disintegrates.
That's the worst.
It's like the opposite of what's happening with Grays.
Exactly. It is pretty bad, right? Just single ply tissue paper, toilet paper. Yeah.
Oh my god, it's the worst. Like you go to the movie theater and you're like, oh my god, I'm using half the roll.
Right.
Yeah. And if your finger ever does break through, you're like, well, now how am I going to get my pants up without getting poop? You know?
Yep, exactly.
I mean, you're in a quandary. So it's pretty bad.
You could just call it like, public toilet stall toilet paper. Like that enough, people aren't going to buy it.
No one would be like, oh, I'm out.
Yeah.
Oh my god, you ever see that episode of The Office when Dwight owns the building and to save money, he takes the 2-ply toilet paper and he makes his brother turn it into 1-ply?
Yes, that is the business model.
Ooh, perfect. Yeah.
All right, Mark, you had some time to think on it this week. What was your branding for your competition?
Full disclosure, I don't think very much. But I thought something maybe still stinky after.
Still stinky after. Wow.
That means it was an incomplete clean.
Yeah, forever smelly or something like that. Something to get them to think of like not fresh. So I feel like all the toilet paper is always talking fresh and all that kind of stuff. Just maybe like not so fresh or something like that would be a good one too.
Yeah.
Also be a really terrible name for a douche company.
Yeah, a douche company.
Yeah, it'd be
we could do
those shouldn't exist. Those aren't good for people anyways. So
yeah. 20 Grit's coming out with a new product line. They're calling it the Smear Around trademark toilet paper.
Oh.
It's more like 2000 Grit now is what they're going for.
It's a rock.
It's just
flat.
Planet.
It's just totally smooth.
Oh, 2000 Grit. Okay.
It's just a chip of sharpened flint.
Yeah,
exactly.
It's just
it's wax paper.
Oh,
caveman.
Mark, we can always trust you to bring us the most epic questions to start our episode.
The hard hitting, but what about announcements? I think you have
so we actually got a few announcements this week. We don't typically have a lot of announcements for our show, but there are a couple things that are coming along down the pipeline. The first I want to mention is that Grenades and Horseshoes will be hosting their first Iron Banner and Brews stream, right, in celebration of 6v6. We were unable to do an Iron Banner and Brews back when 6v6 first launched for Iron Banner because we were traveling, we were on vacation. But this Friday at 9 Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific, this is on May 4th, 2018, we will be hosting on our Twitch channel, on our YouTube channel, and our Mixer channel, Iron Banner and Brews. We get our friends together, our producers. We make up silly rules. We turn it into a drinking game. We each feature different beers that we like. We talk about the beers, but more than anything, we just like playing some Destiny, hanging out, and honestly, some of the best laughs that you will see on Twitch will be Friday night on Mark Square's channel, where you are tonight, for Iron Banner and Brews.
And as an example, just quickly as an example of a modifier, like we did find out it is control this time. So every time the enemy captures a point back from us, everybody has to drink. So that gives you an idea of the level of shenanigans and the low level of gameplay skill you're going to see on display during this stream.
Well, who knows? I mean, I get better the drunker I get, so...
Yes, the more
I'm already like middle of the pack, so like I'll be like straight like triple wreck level by the end of the night, or at least I'll believe I am.
You heard it here. Gauntlets being thrown. And speaking of gauntlets being thrown, we had a little fun this week, and we threw down the gauntlet to our fellow Destiny podcast hosts and friends that we wanted to put together a podcast Crucible showdown between all the Destiny podcasts. So we just kind of threw it out there, said we're going to throw the gauntlet, who's interested, tagged a bunch of different podcasts. A lot of people got roped in. And guys, we're over 20 podcasts right now confirmed that want to participate in this event. Nice. We're certainly not going to list them all because that's going to be boring for you listeners. But if you follow us on Twitter at G&H Show, we're going to be releasing more materials about this event. It will be after Private Matches launch. We will stream it. We're hoping to contain this in a one-day event if possible. It'll be multi-platform. And like I said, we're probably looking at about 25 different Destiny-themed or Destiny community-connected podcasts that are going to go up in a bracket-style competition, one podcast left standing. And you know what? We're going to do it all for charity. So that charity is yet to be determined. We're going to kind of talk it through with the different podcasts and figure out kind of a good singular goal that we can rally behind. But we think this is going to be a really fun event. Expect it to occur late May or early June. But we'll have more materials coming out. Certainly follow us on Twitter at G&H Show to get more information. And speaking of our Twitter, our last announcement is that throughout the week, Mark Square puts together these really cool G&H Name That Game posts on Twitter. These little mini games that go on throughout the week where we throw up a screenshot of a classic game or an unheard of game or even a popular game, and we see who can be the first person in our Twitter community to name that game. Then every given week, we go through the leaderboard. We see who answered those correctly, and we read them off on stream. We're doing our show a little bit early this week, so we've only had 2 posts. But Michael Stokoop from Stokorp from Guardian 1 got one of our posts correct, and Frodis got our other post correct. So thank you guys. You guys are on our leaderboard for this week. First time for both of them on our leaderboard. So we'll keep track of that, and as we reach the end of our season, we are going to tally those up, and who knows, maybe we'll even have a little G&H swag bag for our top of the leaderboard.
And there was another, but no one guessed it, and it was about a man who poops so hard he flies into outer space. So it's a Flash-based game. I'm actually interested to talk to this developer. I'm hoping they'll be at PAX. But the name of the game was Icarus Proudbottom, and the curse of the chocolate fountain. So I'm all in on these guys.
Yes. It's speaking to Mark's demographic.
Wait, you're all in on the Proudbottoms.
Yeah, Icarus Proudbottom.
Yep. So,
I mean, what a noble yet down-to-earth name.
So far, we are a full 10 minutes into the show, and we've had two different poop joke / segments. We'll see if we can hit a new record on episode 34. But let's go ahead and move into Week in Gaming.
What poop did you play, Greg?
What poop did I play? I played a lot of games, and none of them were poop. Some of them were actually fantastic. And I'm going to start off with just one of the it's probably going to be one of the best games ever, really. Certainly going to be one of the best games of 2018. 2018 is starting incredibly strong. I can't believe that these guys kept this game quiet for so long, and then when it got released, this thing just took off like wildfire. And of course, I'm not talking about Icarus Proudbottom. I'm talking about the epic success of God of War. I jumped into that this past week. First, before I get too deep into it, Mark and Yuna, have you guys played God of War? Have you put it in yet?
No, It wasn't on my purchase list, but everyone's liking it, so I'm thinking of doing.
Yeah. How about you, Mark?
Doing it.
It's single player, so unlikely I will ever try it.
That's too bad. You're going to be missing out. So it was also not on my radar. I played through the other God of War games, and I did enjoy them. But it's a different type of game than what I've been playing recently. A lot of what we've been playing recently are first-person shooters, cooperative. I mean, Destiny is a lot to the core of our relationships with one another and our relationships with our community. So God of War doesn't really fit that mold, but the press was so good about it. The reviews were so strong. I was sold, and I pre-ordered the game, and historically I've been very disappointed when I'm convinced to pre-order a game. I am not disappointed. Let's just start. First, I should say for our listeners, you do not need to tune out. I'm not going to release any spoilers. I'm not far enough into the story to probably even give you high-level spoilers. I'm just going to talk about how the game looks and feels and really the magic that they created. So, for one, it's visually stunning. Best game I've ever seen, period. Right? I mean, wow. Horizon Zero Dawn now is the second best game I've ever seen and played. This exceeds Horizon Zero Dawn in terms of how they use HDR, the visual fidelity, the texture package, the cinematic actually of the game. A lot of the camera angles that's what a lot of people are talking about, is that they station this camera angle and the movement of the camera angle so that you don't really feel like you have 100% control of the camera, and it's kind of overlooking the shoulder, but given which part of a cinematic sequence you're in, the camera will shift on its own. And for some people, that can be immersion breaking, right? Because you feel like you're controlling your view of the action and this interaction on screen. And now the camera just takes control and moves. But it's almost a little bit like A Way Out in that you kind of let go, right? You take a step back and you let the camera do what it's supposed to do and show you the things that you're supposed to see. And it makes it a more cinematic experience. It certainly hasn't been distracting. And I think that Sony Studios here pulled it off in a fantastic way. Huge plus there, like I said before, the best visual game that I've ever played and ever seen. And that's my core, right? I love seeing what we can do with the visuals in a game, the particle effects in a game on the hardware that we have. And I play Destiny 2 on PC. It looks fantastic. It looks amazing. But there's just something that Sony Studios did with this God of War on the PlayStation 4 Pro that is very impressive. It's very immersive. So I have my HUD pretty much turned off, right? And that's one drawback to Horizon Zero Dawn. There's so many things on your screen. Go here. Here's your marker. Here's your compass. I'm at the fairly early in the game. I don't have any markers really on my screen that are telling me what to do. It's kind of like figure it out and explore. But it also makes it fairly intuitive from a mechanic standpoint. You're not looking for the information to tell you how you're supposed to do something. It does a pretty good job laying it out in a way that makes sense, is easy to remember, is easy to understand. You don't really need somebody to hold your hand through learning how to play the game in the first part of the story, right? The first early part of the game. The voice acting, fantastic. Right. Just I could say that there's a little bit of drawback maybe with the boy that's in the game, but Kratos' actual voice acting behind him is sensational. It's great. And it plays in very well because we're playing with a very old Kratos. Right. What they did here. Did you guys ever watch the movie Logan, the Marvel movie?
Yes.
You didn't see it, Mark?
Movie.
It is, but a very different sort of Marvel movie, right? These are characters at the end of their lives, and it's gritty and it's dark, and these people are like broken. And that's what we're getting in this game is an old Kratos. It's very gritty. He's very rough. And that's really cool to see. It's a different thing than what you see with the prototypical hero story. So I got to play a fair bit last night and was just immersed in the game. I love it. I can't recommend it enough for people to just experience it. It's been really cool, and everything that you read about it online is true. It deserves the hype. It deserves the success that they're getting. So that was a big part. Oh,
have you hit any of the game-breaking bugs? The ones that lock the game up and mess up your save? Or
I haven't
is that what's
yet.
happening?
And it could be that I'm just too early into it. I do know that they're releasing patches like crazy.
Yeah, every day. And that's what I've heard. Big patches every day. So they're probably getting that stuff taken care of. And that's the thing like about a single-player game that, would be a super big plus. You can patch stuff like that out without all the, effects of a multiplayer game. A lot of times more complicated to patch.
Yeah, there's a lot less interconnectivity to worry about.
And as I play it, it's kind of nice to know that this is a story arc that will complete, and then I can say I experienced the game. It's not like a lot of the games that we're currently playing, which do not really have a true end, right? The end game is meant to be played ongoing, and with this, I don't necessarily anticipate playing it ongoing. It's going to be you play through the story, you get the experience, and then you're done. You kind of get to move on.
More like watching a movie.
Right. Yeah. And when something is as well done as this game is, even if it's not your forte, I don't play a lot of hack and slash type games, but great cinematics, great storytelling, and great visuals, and I'm sold. I'll play through that 40-hour campaign or however long it's going to be for those elements because it'll continue to wow me. Granted, as a caveat, what's that?
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
I would say as a little caveat, I am playing on the PS4 Pro. I am running it in performance mode, and I do have it on a 4K HDR TV. So it's kind of the perfect scenario to maximize that experience for the visuals, because that's what I'm personally going for. But from what I've heard and what I've read, even when you're playing it in 1080p on a standard PlayStation, not in HDR, nothing souped up, it still looks fantastic. It's one of the best games that's out there right now.
Well, I will say this, like someone told me the premise of it. I won't say it here on the show in case you haven't, but the simplicity of the premise actually made me interested.
Yeah.
Because what I don't like in storytelling is a bunch of convoluted mess.
Yeah,
So like it sounds really, really captivating and everything. So I am tempted to try it for sure. Okay, what else? Did you play anything else this week?
Yeah, so played a little Destiny 2. We'll get into that with one of the later Week in Gaming segments. And then Hearthstone. Thanks to you guys last week raving about Hearthstone, I jumped into it pretty heavily over the weekend. Went into the Witchwood Monster Hunt, and I had a blast. I'm a pretty fresh trading card player, right? I got my first Magic deck just about a month and a half ago. Been trying that out a little bit. And Hearthstone, I played a little bit back in 2013, 2014 maybe, but hadn't really picked it up since it launched. But jumped in and kind of got through unlocking all the heroes, jumped right into Witchwood, and I actually got to beat all of the 8 bosses on my Cannoneer that first run.
It's sweet.
So the game's way too easy is my issue. I should not be able to jump in and
I could not
do
get
that.
past 5.
Although I gotta say I couldn't get past. I got past 6 once. But what I will say is this: Yuna and I are dumb as a bag of hammers.
I'm not dumb.
Oh.
Speak for yourself. I'm not as dummy-dumb. My goodness.
I think you protested.
Right.
Why are you burning me like that?
Yeah.
I said
I
you
got-
and I.
I had very high
Exactly.
SAT scores.
So Gray beat it first try. My friend Abby beat it first try, and I'm like, "What is wrong with me? I can't."
Now let me explain the deck that I was running. So I was playing Cannoneer, but I did not load up heavy on actually the Cannoneer ability, and partly because if you go back and watch our YouTube streams, Mark has a lot of these learn to play Hearthstone videos, which is actually learn how not to play Hearthstone videos.
Yeah,
That's what you have to go in is look at what he does and just realize this is not how you should play the game. That's how I watch him. So I'm watching him, and he's like, oh, I'm going to load up. I'm double cannons, and double damage on my cannons. I'm going full cannons. And then he can't get past like round 5. So I went a little different direction, and I actually loaded up pretty heavy with low to moderate level minions. And I would summon those minions out there. And then I just I went with double on my life, which helped a lot. And I certainly did have some matches that I didn't think, as I got to the end, the last 2 matches were close. The last one exceptionally close. I think I had 2 life and 2 armor left, and I misplayed my last turn. I could have killed the guy, and I misplayed, and I had to go through another round of damage that I didn't know that I was going to survive. And I barely survived it and was able to then finish him off. But the one that I want to talk about from just mechanics, and this is what actually, as I was playing, going, I think I could fall in love with Hearthstone. It was when I was playing Grotto the Bog Warden. Have you guys fought Grotto the Bog Warden yet?
No.
He's a big slime creature, big slime monster.
We're too stupid to reach Grotto.
Well, no, this was pretty early, actually, for me.
They do
because it's random. It's random. So this is his hero ability. It's passive. Whenever an enemy dies, summon a 1/3 bloated zombie. So if one of my characters die, he gets a 1/3 bloated zombie. The problem is I'm running a lot of low to moderate minions. And a lot of his characters, just as they either their battle cry or their death rattle causes damage to everything and everybody. Right?
Ouch.
Bloated zombies, their death rattle is to deal 1 damage to all characters, including their own characters. So he ends up damaging himself, killing himself, cycling through more damage to himself. There was one part where so many minions died on both sides and so many damage phases, I think I had to wait like 4 minutes for all the damage mechanics because they just kept stacking on each other. And I'm sitting there like, I don't know what's going on in this game. It's just broken.
And you can look at the feed on the right; it'll tell you.
It keeps going. Yeah, it keeps going, and more bloated zombies. And bloated zombies are dying because there's too many bloated zombies dying, and then more of them are popping up. So this kind of stacking happened. The nice thing is bloated zombies aren't strong. They're 1/3, 1 attack, 3 vitality. So eventually, he filled up his entire board with bloated zombies because of this mechanic, and he couldn't summon anything, which is kind of how I was able then to get to my late phase minions, which will only be 1 or 2 minions, and then they could really survive rounds of attack and do a lot of damage at the same time. But it was very fun to play, especially early on when you just see this craziness happening on the screen.
Yeah, and and Gray is correct. I play those games in a way that is a very high risk, high reward, and most usually just high risk, no reward. This is the way it usually plays out. I got this card during the one of my monster hunts, and it was called Ricochet Shot, and it said deal 3 damage to a random character, which can be a minion or either me or the enemy or the opponent. And I thought it would risky. And then it says do it 12 times. Do it 12 times. So I thought it would pick one, and then it would do it 12 times to that one it picked. Nope. So what I did is I wiped the board, made sure that I worked an entire game to wipe the board out so I could play that Ricochet Shot. I played it, and actually it chooses a new target every time it does the 3 damage. So it ended up doing more damage to me because I had my opponent down to like 32, and so it would have killed him if it worked the way I thought, or it would have took me down to like 3 life, but still, it was fine. It was worth it. It was like so it just instead it equalized both of our life totals to 18. Yeah. Like it did way more to me than it did to him, and I was just like, come on. But that's the reason I love it too. That zany stuff like that happens. It's mechanics and everything that you would have never guessed would be happening in the game if you just played the vanilla part of it way back when it came out.
And the monster hunt is actually like, this is where I was like, oh, I could get into this game just for the monster hunts because the AI, right? These characters have a hero ability. With that hero ability, they build their decks around the ability. So before the game, you're kind of reading it and you're saying, oh, this character, every spell has echo, not just their spells, your spells too. And I'm sitting there going, oh, crud, I didn't load up a bunch of spells in my deck, and I know what I'm about to go against. This guy's going to have hardly any minions, and he's just going to echo his spells like crazy. That was the one that almost killed me, was this whole deal where he could run a 2-mana spell 5 times against me at those late phase rounds, and it went really late. We played really late into that game.
It's great, isn't it? Like I can't say enough good about the Monster Hunt, because you get abilities too. After you beat certain things, you'll get passive abilities. You'll get cards in that Monster Hunt that are way too powerful to be in a PvE match.
Yeah.
What I'd like to see, and Blizzard, I know that this is probably not a high priority for you, and you're not listening to our show, but if by chance you get this message, as a little sidebar, how cool would it be to have a 2-headed giant mode where it was you and one of these bosses versus a real life player and one of those bosses, and you did not get to control that boss's deck. They get to play their cards as they play them, and it's kind of like this, real world player and an AI versus a real world player and an AI.
That would be so cool. Yeah, and then, or even to play 2 of you against one of those bosses that was like overpowered. Do you know what I mean? Like where you could play on a team against a boss.
What do you mean by overpowered?
Like so.
Well, because he had no problem, so that just means that we stinkeroo.
We just can't cut it in the Hearthstone world.
We can't cut the cheese.
Yeah, I can't. Yeah, apparently we can't do the math.
And actually, because it is like 30 boss fights and it's randomized. Like I had 8 of them, and I had 8 of them that you guys probably didn't run up against. Chances are I've got 3 other characters that I got to run through this Monster Hunt before it unlocks the actual final boss. I'm going to probably run into some of these harder characters that you're talking about.
There's
I probably just didn't run into them yet.
Yeah.
The Face Collector. I've faced him. Every time I face him, he ends my run. And his ability is he can turn any minion into one that costs 2 more. But the problem is it wipes all the damage off and upgrades it.
Right.
So my decks are always just really weak to it. I can't. Yeah. He's like, he's in my.
I haven't run into him yet. Well, I'm going kind of long on my segment. Certainly, we need to wrap that up, and we can move right on into Yuna's weekend.
What about Yuna?
What did you do?
Okay, well I'm gonna continue on Hearthstone then, because that's the only game I played. So the one. It'll take like 2 seconds, and then I'm going to talk about something else. Oh my gosh, the one that I got stuck in on, I was on round 5 was the one. Did you guys face the one where they she could steal your minions, your low level minions?
No, I did not.
See, because I was running the same strategy that Gray was talking about with loading up on, 2 to 5 crystal minions, right? And she just continually took all of them, like you bitch. I'm like, I had caltrops down. Yeah, I'm like I had caltrops down too, so they would take it and it would damage it, but still, like, she would take away all my minions, and so that. So
I didn't do caltrops. What was caltrops again?
It gives them it essentially takes away 1 health from every monster that the opponent plays as soon as they play it.
Oh, okay. So I did the one that gave each of my minions 1 extra health.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's better.
That's
better.
So I never got that one. The other ones that I did go with was one time I got I could do my hero thing twice, so I chose that one, and then the other one was
I think that was my option.
All of my minions cost one less.
Oh, 1 mana less.
I never got the double health one. It never came up.
Oh, maybe that is randomized too.
It is. Yeah. So I congratulated myself a lot. Still lost for picking caltrops, and then I got a 3-pack of executes, which is destroy any damaged minion. Oh, so basically, it was like one mana, and I could destroy anything.
Yeah.
Because everything they had was damaged.
Yeah, and that was a good one.
Still lost.
But still lost.
Yep.
What else did you play this week, Yuna?
Well, that's actually my week in gaming. So, like, on Thursday and Friday, I was out of work because my ankle again. But those days were completely consumed by the Avengers.
Watching the Avengers again and again.
Yep, I saw it twice. I did. I saw it twice. Once on Thursday night, and then I went again on Friday morning because I have Movie Pass, and it's fantastic. Obviously, I'm not going to spoil it for anyone. It's been less than a week it's been out. I'm not going to be like a cruel person like that. But totally spoiler free, I can say, damn.
Mm.
That movie. I'm probably going to see it probably about 2 more times since I have the movie pass, which is
You might watch
just
your terms of service on that movie pass. They did just announce that you're not allowed to see the same movie more than once using movie pass.
Oh,
What?
no, you better
Since
not talk
when?
about it then.
Last week. Since
Oh,
last
that's
week.
bullshit.
You might be making that up.
I am
This
not
is why we
making
lose
that
at
up.
Hearthstone.
I am
my
not
God.
making that up. So you might want to
That's
just check it, because it's something it's probably hasn't gone into effect yet, but they announced it last week.
Wow.
That's not cool.
Yep.
Unreal.
Because that's what
Um,
Bill and I use it for, is to see like movies that we want to see multiple times,
Oh, you better cancel that crap.
like
man.
Star Wars and stuff.
We're changing.
I mean,
now.
it would still be worth it if I only got to see it once, because it's still less than the cost of a single movie ticket, even on matinee. But still, dang.
yeah.
But yeah.
All right. Well, let's move on to Mark. What was your weekend gaming like?
Well, we talked about Hearthstone. You and I did a raid layer, Destiny 2, and I had a blast. You had a blast. Well, I think you did. One thing that I found out, I hopped on the day before. Dakota's like, we should practice, because he knows how nervous Nelly I am about raiding. Dakota Dark is literally my raid like security blanket, though. Like if Dakota's there, I'm not worried about it. I do fine. But yeah, so we jumped in the day before, and he's like, yeah, check your raid armor and just see if see if there's anything different. I opened my raid armor up. This is raid armor I got forever ago, and you can upgrade it with raid worthy perks, like stuff that helps you in the raid. Imagine freaking that. I was so excited. And so I I re-rolled a bunch of it to get to be survivalist armor, so you got a lot of recovery. I got some really sweet looking gloves from the raid lair. I got the Midnight Coup from the raid. We ran the raid and the raid lair before we ran that next day with you. And man, the perks actually make a difference. Like your gloves, if you it's like about 1 time out of 3, if you melee kill something, even just like a goblin or something low level, it'll drop heavy. So it's really, really good. The perks actually really help you. And like the boots are like, if you get a special weapon kill, it boosts your damage for special weapons by 15% for a certain amount of time.
That makes me want to go raiding.
It's not, it makes a huge difference, like, because it actually feels easier, and it feels like you play in a certain way based on what your armor says, right? You find yourself strategizing that way. But yeah, so yeah, and then so the next day I felt a little more prepared to go into the raid lair, and we did. It took us a little longer to beat the boss the second day. But it was so much fun. Like I've been having a blast in that room where Argos is at in the raid lair. It's like parkour in there all the time. I mean, you're just jumping around everywhere. So I've always enjoyed that part. Yeah, hardcore parkour.
I ran it with you that second day this week, and we did have a lot of fun. We had Paris from Gamertag Radio in on that group. Dakota Dark, of course. A couple of our producers. Kyle was in there. The tricky thing is, Dan Finity from SideQuest Sunday, man, he was killing it too. I was on my Titan, and for whatever reason, like I just hadn't been playing a lot of Destiny 2, and I don't know why, like I forgot how to jump on my Titan. And
you should stick with Hearthstone, buddy.
Exactly. The jumping is way more intuitive on Hearthstone. I'm telling you. Actually, I was going to say Bungie fix your game, but you brought it up. Bungie is fixing their game. I mean, tongue in cheek, we gave them a lot of hard time about it, but look at what they've done. I mean, we asked for raid specific gear for a long time, and they've responded. Right? We have gear from the raid that will help you in the raid. That's 1+ for Bungie. Good job. We're happy to see that. It's making it more fun for us. But yeah, I wasn't jumping very well, and continuing to work on that. Granted, as we got through the encounter, it was better. But if you're somebody that struggles with jumping mechanics in Destiny 2, that end boss fight for the raid layer is tricky. That is a difficult scenario.
Yeah, there's all these little platforms with holes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do have to ask, did you do any damage, Gray?
If you guys don't know, my nickname, and if you watch the streams, you can see, because they just call me it. No
Yeah.
Not bashful at all. No DPS gray. And it started because in the raid layer, I misunderstood. I thought they said that
You weren't listening.
to do
He
damage.
was playing a game on his computer while we were explaining the encounter.
I was playing Civilization 4 on my computer while they were explaining the mechanic. And I did just catch a piece of it where they said that you have to do sustained damage on him. Don't use your rockets. And so I didn't, right? So for the whole damage phases, I didn't use rockets. And we got him down to a sliver, and we did not win. We lost. It was like just a tiny
sliver.
bit. And then when it shows the kill screen and they see that, my damage is like a tenth. 20K. It's like a tenth of what everybody else is. And they're like, what are you even doing? And I told them I was using Cold Heart the whole time because that's sustained damage. What they were referring to is that you do need to stun him after he takes his shield down after a DPS phase. And you jump up on these platforms and you shoot him in the shoulder, you shoot him in the back, you shoot him kind of down low at one of his leg areas. That's sustained damage. But when you're actually trying to hurt him, no, you should use your supers, use your rockets, use everything. I did not understand that, and I did win Civilization 6, so that was the plus.
Wait, how do you win Civilization?
Oh, you have to get like victory. There's a number of different victory conditions.
We wouldn't know that.
There's winning.
We can't even beat Hearthstone.
That's a nerd game.
Yeah. All right. So we
like
played
Roller
some Destiny 2. We had a lot of fun, which is something that we haven't been able to say for a while. So, Mr. Square in particular, I'm happy to see you having fun in Destiny 2.
I was losing hope that I would get back into the game, to be honest. And a lot of it's friends, right? You jump back on, friends that we've been keeping up with everybody in chat and stuff, but it's different playing games with people. So we've been diving into D1 raids, and that was great. I mean, and that kind of was the gateway drug for me getting back into Destiny 2 again. Played a lot of Nightfalls and stuff like that, but really a lot of it was you feel a little more powerful after the Go Fast update, and you feel a little more powerful with the raid perks that come on your armor. So, so that was it for me and the week in gaming. Let's move on to our first segment. Of the game
our first one.
The News Desk.
All right, Yuna, what do we got from the News Desk this week?
Well, I certainly have some news for you. So, this week is Golden Week in Japan, and it's a unique time of year, and Square Enix is taking advantage of everyone's downtime by offering a sale of epic proportions on digital PC games. From Final Fantasy to Dragon Quest to some smaller, lesser-known games, there's definitely something for everyone. So, do you guys know what Golden Week is in Japan?
No.
Never heard of it.
So, Golden Week is a week in Japan where it actually contains 4 of the biggest holidays of the entire year. So what happens is almost everyone takes that day off. It's a week of rest, relaxation, travel. So if you work in one of those industries, sorry, sucks to be you, but everyone else has the week off. So typically it starts on April 29th. It's actually April 29th is about 4 different days. 4 different holidays crammed into one. It's the Emperor's birthday, 2 of them actually, which is always, a big deal in Japan because they still have an emperor. Greenery Day and Showa Day. On May 3rd is Constitution Memorial Day. May 4th is the Citizens Holiday and Greenery Day. And May 5th is Children's Day. So it's also known as Boys' Day or the Feast of Banners. So those are pretty big holidays, and they're all crammed in the same week. So everyone tends to have a lot of downtime, and it's basically time for family vacation and time for, getting together with friends and relaxing. And I wish we had something like that in the U.S.
Sounds like time to play some video games, too. Were there any highlights from the sale that you want to point out? What's big out there?
So what's going on? So with the games, as far as how much everything is off, everything's almost 50% off, which is actually kind of insane. So all the way from the original Final Fantasies all the way up to the newest ones. So like, say for example, and they're all for PC, so take that. But the like for example, the Final Fantasy 10-2 HD remaster is typically $30, and right now it's only $15.
But those
same
are
thing
terrible games. What else? For our listeners, if you don't know, Final Fantasy 10
Oh, stop
10-2 is like Yuna's favorite game
you're
ever.
such a baiter because you know that
I do. I know that's your favorite. I actually might pick it up because I've never played it. The only downside is I'm not a big fan of remasters in general.
Well, it looks fantastic. So I did buy it for the PS4 when it came out on remaster, and it does look fantastic. So they didn't really change any of the core gameplay or anything like that. They just updated the graphics a bit, and it's totally still the same game that I love and is close to my heart. So that's a good one. So they also have some of the newer Dragon Quest ones. So the Dragon Quest Heroes and Heroes 2, those are also 50% off. Heroes 2 is usually $60 and it's down to $29. The older Final Fantasies usually are ranging between $5 and $8, which is actually really great buy-in, especially if you've never had a chance to play them before. Like, for example, Final Fantasy 7 is only $6, and it's one of the best games ever created.
I'm still waiting for them to release that complete top-down refresh of Final Fantasy VII, which is they're working on. We've seen demos of it.
There are rumors.
They've released a little bit of gameplay footage of it too. So
looks crazy.
I'm gonna wait for that to do that complete top-down overhaul to play that one because I missed out. I did not play Final Fantasy VII when it came out.
I even played that.
I mean, honestly,
like 10 minutes.
I would recommend still playing it because there's something really special about the way that they do the 8-bit game on it. And it's one of the first games that was like 3D 8-bit. So I really do recommend still doing it. There are jokes in there that aren't going to translate well to a real-time game. And it's just, so I do definitely recommend that.
Sure.
But yeah, I mean, there's some smaller ones like Yosumin, which is a little one. It's $3. I'm gonna probably pick up The Last Remnant. So that's only $5. Something I wanted to play. It never got really big, but for $5, I definitely will do that. So,
sweet.
But yeah,
all right.
So
Square
really big sale
Enix
there.
Golden Week. Go
Yes.
check it out. We got time for one more story. You know what else we got from the news desk?
Okay. So next up, we have a story from Kotaku. It posted today. It was written by Heather Alexandria, and there was no way I could possibly improve on her synopsis of the story. So I'm just going to read it word for word, the first paragraph, because it was so fantastic. I couldn't improve on it. So this one, the title is Speedrunner Beats Super Metroid with Horrifying Vaseline Covered Controller. Sometimes it just isn't enough to speedrun a game. Sometimes you need to get your hands dirty. One speedrunner took those words to heart this weekend, completing a Super Metroid speedrun with their hands and controller covered in Vaseline.
Ugh.
Sexy.
Slippery.
Yeah, super slippery.
Well, no, not really slippery so much as like, well, yes, but also sticky.
It's gotta ruin the controller, right?
Yeah, so apparently, so it was a speedrunner by name of Bullrat. He was actually looking for a third-party controller and he couldn't find one. So what he ended up doing was he used one of his own. And he was actually rather concerned that it wasn't going to last the entire game, but it did. There is a very disturbing photo of him holding the Vaseline-covered one. And I think probably the most disturbing part of it is he didn't even use like normal Vaseline because he says that it smells like coconut, and Vaseline doesn't smell like coconut. So he had to use like some fancy Vaseline.
Kind of sexy Vaseline? Is that what we're talking about?
Well, no, I'm thinking more like special lip balmy Vaseline rather than just like the straight up petroleum jelly Vaseline.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yep, there we have it.
Yeah, for those that are fortunate enough to watch our live stream here on Twitch Wednesday nights, I've covered up Mark Square with an image of this Vaseline-covered controller. Chat, tell us what you think of this as a challenge. Mark Square, you love doing challenges. How come you have not come up with these types of challenges? You have to go and beat the raid layer with a Vaseline-covered controller.
Just one word. Barf.
Okay. Barf.
Barf.
I actually added an extra syllable to barf just for this guy.
Well, who knows? Maybe it feels good.
Maybe it feels good. Yeah.
You can have
Besides,
really
what are you gonna do with all that Vaseline you keep buying?
Yeah, how are you gonna insert your controller into your rectum after the game if you don't use the Vaseline?
That's number 3 for the episode. Number 3. All right. Well,
But
the only thing I want to
that
wrap
joke's
up about this speed run is that he actually beat his record doing this. So even with the challenge, he beat, and he was playing Contra, right? Is what it was?
No,
No, he
Metroid.
Oh,
wasn't. He was
Metroid.
playing
Okay.
Metroid.
So the reason I told that joke though was for there's legit reason to say that. Why would you think of this? Why would like what?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it was one of his somebody in chat said to him as a challenge. He said, "What would be a good speedrun challenge?" And somebody said,
Oh.
just soak your do it with your controller covered in Vaseline,
Do it.
trying to make
really?
it harder. Yeah, and he thought, all right, yeah, that sounds reasonable enough, and so yeah, but yeah, I could see chat. All right, for next week, tell us what challenge do you want to see these hosts do for the live show next week? All right, it has to involve Vaseline.
No, it cannot involve Vaseline. I'm gonna be sick. I feel sick right now.
No, not involving Vaseline. I can only think of the things that JC Jesse would make us do.
Yes, exactly. Yes, Danfinity, I hope you're listening. All right. Well, let's move into our next segment of the show.
The Spotlight.
Yeah.
Since you guys got me talking a little bit about Civilization 6, there's a game that came out this past week that is tearing up the strategy city building genre right now, and it's really cool. It's called Frostpunk. They were at PAX East. We did get to see their game, but it was pretty packed. Like, people were demoing this thing. It looked very flashy, so we didn't get a ton of time actually with the game because of how busy their booth was. And we didn't really need to because we knew it was going to be coming out fairly quickly. So it was released just this past week on Steam. It's $29.99. It's basically a $30 game only for PC. It is a city builder set in the 19th century of Victorian England, right? So that's what cyberpunk kind of, that whole Victorian England kind of theme is. A lot of steam engines, that sort of thing, brass pipe fittings.
Steampunk, not cyberpunk.
Oh yeah, steampunk.
Steampunk.
My apologies. And this is Frostpunk. So Frostpunk takes a spin on it, which is that the Ice Age has happened at this phase of 19th century England. And you're trying to survive this ice age. So the world just keeps getting colder and colder and colder.
I'm getting older.
Now, before we get into actually the mechanics of the gameplay and what this game is all about, a few things that I want you to realize, though. This game, which is an indie game, the developer we'll talk about in a second, had a lot of success with their prior game. But I don't think anybody expected this game to launch with the success that it had. It has sold hundreds of thousands of copies on Steam in the first week since launch. Hundreds of thousands of copies at $30, which is not cheap for an indie game. $30 for the game. I checked yesterday. It was in the top 10 of the Twitch stream directory, right? Destiny 2 hasn't been in the top 10 of the Twitch stream directory for ages. And now, granted, this game has fallen down. Now they're kind of down in the top 15, top 20. But people were definitely drawn and attracted to watching this game. Certainly, a lot of them are actually from Eastern Europe, which is where this developer is from. So 11-Bit Studios is who made the game. They were formed by a number of CD Projekt developers and Metropolis developers. So they're all based in Poland, right? Warsaw, Poland. CD Projekt, they've had moderate success with some of their games. Do you guys know any of their games?
Not off the top of my head, no.
The Witcher, Witcher 2, Witcher 3.
Heard of that?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know.
Yeah.
Wow.
So a lot of success.
That's another game that I need to play.
Yeah.
So they made this too?
No. So they're based in Poland as well. And these are a common theme that we see with indie developers, right? Now, I think that CD Projekt is one of the best. Really, they are an independent developer, but they make fantastic games. I say independent in that they're not necessarily like directly attached to like an EA or something like that to release their games. A lot of creative control is maintained internally. But once a game becomes really big, like The Witcher, you have certain restraints, certain expectations. You can risk certain things, but it's kind of like moving a big ship. It's slow to turn. So they broke away, they left, and they started their own studio called 11-Bit Studios. That was back in 2009. They had a number of just handful small indie games, but from 2012 to 2014, they worked on a project which really just like caught fire. Did you guys ever hear of the game War of Mine? So go check it out. Now's a pretty good time to see it. It's on actually pretty much all devices: Android, iOS, PC. You can go and find it. It actually would play as a really good mobile game. But this was an indie game that it exploded. Like over 100 awards. It was in all the top news sites. Time magazine talked about this game. Gritty survival, war themed, Polish in Poland developers thinking about what they went through with World War II, and how that would influence the development of this game. They said that the cost of development, right, 2 years of this team, and in 2016, they had 69 employees. 2 years of development, and granted, prior to, they probably didn't have 69 employees, but a moderate-sized studio, they covered their cost of development the first weekend this game got released.
Oh, wow.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, and when we talk to indie developers, like, everything is hinging on the success of their last game. So whatever their vision is for the next game is only going to happen if what they just released does well. And think of the momentum that 11-bit studios had here, right? They worked for 2 years and banked their resources into the game War of Mine, and people loved it, and they bought it like hotcakes, and they covered their cost of development in the first weekend. This game has continued to sell extremely well. So they now have so many resources to throw into this project that Frostpunk, it really shows just how polished and clean it is from the resources they could throw in it. It's a very pretty game, but you got to think of it as like this pretty raw and gritty and hard strategy city building type game. So you're trying to build and maintain a population, tell them to go and get resources and build around their resources and put in infrastructure like law and religion, while you're in the chaos of an ice age, and it just keeps getting colder and colder, and you're trying to survive it. Let's see what other notes I have here. The developer, 11-Bit Studios, had a quote through their website about themselves. And this is what kind of keyed it off, that I think these guys are going to continue to be very successful. They say, "We believe in creating things instead of just copying them." And as an indie developer, right, that's where you have the most freedom. You're not dealing with an Activision lording over you saying, we need to hit certain numbers of profitability on this product to recoup our expenses of development. You cannot take risks. Like these guys, they've actually got the check, right? They publish their own games. That's also fantastic. They're not reliant on a publisher. They not only publish their own games, but they've become a publisher for other indie studios that want to maintain creative control of their products. So if you're an indie studio, you can go to their website and say, I've got an idea for a project. Will you fund me and publish my game? Because I think that you'd be a good publisher to work with on the model that you've developed.
Nice. Well, what happens with a bigger company like that too is they don't, not only do they say don't take risks, a lot of times they'll be like, your game is kind of like this other game. They're doing this, so why don't you do this too? So they'll even encourage, game designers to be less original because of the safe path. That's what's so attractive about indie games.
Oh, you know what? This city building, gritty, raw, difficult strategy game sounds fantastic. How quickly can you get a battle royale mode in there? It's like, well, no,
it's terrible.
We can't. It doesn't fit.
That's not what it's for.
Yeah.
Ship that idea. Yes.
So early indicators, right? As I've read reviews out there, a lot of people think this is going to win several Game of the Year awards. For the genre itself. So Indie Game of the Year, Indie Strategy Game of the Year. Civilization 6 did not launch with that much fanfare. There was a lot of things that fans were not happy about. So there's a need right now to have a strategy game, which is meeting that need that people who like these games, I certainly like these games. But this is different because it's raw, like it's rough. The decisions that you have to make are not black and white. And it's not just about maintaining balance in your population. Everything is downhill all the time. And that's a little bit different. Like usually in Civilization, right, you're building and supporting and growing your community and things are going well. And the faster that things go well, the more quickly you're able to win the game and get those victory conditions. Not so much with this game. It's just how long are you going to survive as things continue to get colder and colder and colder. Let's see. The game is really balanced around really harsh choices. It avoids kind of things getting monotonous because you're always pinned with having to make these difficult decisions. You have to rebuild a society, and then there's really no balance into the game because you never feel safe. It's always just getting colder and having to struggle with that. So definitely going to check this out in more detail. I would recommend to our listeners, if you're a fan of the genre, and even if you're not, but you just find it interesting, these developers, certainly it's worth the support. They did put together a very beautiful game, a different sort of game. I would say it's mature. If you're, not teenager, adult, probably not going to be the game for you. This is something that is really intended for mature audiences. But it is very interesting, and we hope to have a good time in the game. Just for PC only. So,
okay.
Yep. Mark just gave me the controller little emote, and it indicates to me that I did not say it's only on Steam. Like I said, it's right at $30 right now. It just launched this past week, and it's got a lot of buzz. So there's lots of reviews out there. This is certainly my review, and I'm going to give it a thumbs up. Definitely go check it out if you're into strategy type city building games. Any thoughts or questions, guys?
I'm going to try out the other game that they made too, simply because it's on iOS. I really like to it's easy to try out a game on iOS.
Or mine. Yeah, it just won a buttload of awards, and I think the big thing on it just so you know, it's going to be kind of narrative story driven to a certain degree, but I think it really tugs on your heartstrings. So it's kind of an emotional experience.
Yeah. Yuna, did you want to say anything about it?
No, I mean, I'm really interested in, I'm not usually a big fan of those types of civilization, world building type games, but it definitely sounds like it's a lot more hardcore than what I would typically expect from that type of genre. You have to make some hard decisions. And I think exploring that's actually going to be something really interesting.
Yeah. And there's got to be something to those games, right? Because on the surface, Civilization and all those games, people that I respect their decisions about games like them, and I look at it and I'm like, I would rather watch paint dry, but I know that there's more to it. You know what I mean? Because the people that I respect their opinions actually like them. So,
I think they like them for the same reason people like Stardew Valley and games like that. They're just, slightly different mechanics and majorly different wrappings, but the point of it's the same, is to create. So.
Collect and
one thing that's a little different in this that seems interesting to me is normally it's like, some other society is encroaching on you and inflicting pressure on you. Gandhi's being a complete dick and he's threatening you with nuclear warheads.
That doesn't sound like Gandhi.
No, it's a little inside joke. In Civilization, Gandhi he can become a real asshole because there's a certain combination. They've actually kept this in the game for quite a while. In like Civ 3, I want to say, is when it first popped up, that Gandhi is supposed to be the most peaceful, hero you want to call him, or founder of your city leader that you can have. But there's a parameter at which you can actually make his passivity go negative, and the system can't handle that. And as soon as you make this condition happen, it actually makes it max. Instead of it going negative, like if it's 0 to 100, if you hit -1, it just goes to 100. So he reaches this point, right, where he's like the nicest guy in the world. And then the next thing you know, he's threatening nuclear war on everything.
Yeah.
And as a little Easter egg,
too much. He should have been mad all along.
Yeah, as a little Easter egg,
-1 he turns honey badger.
They've kind of kept that in the game because it is pretty funny that Gandhi, under the right conditions, just turns into a complete warmonger, which is pretty.
You can only push someone so far.
Yeah. But my point was, you can have these other leaders, but that's it's not the environment that's your struggle. And this game's different, right? It's not that you've got another society that's trying to take resources from you or take your land. You just have the land, right? The land is bitter. The land is harsh to live in. And you're just trying everything you can to survive one moment to the next. That's a very different twist on the genre.
And it sounds like from some of the situations you described, it's not just the lands. It's like maybe the Roman effect. Like the people are turning against each other too. To the point where it's like, what's the most dangerous animal? Man.
Right. Yeah. Ethan Gotch from
That's true.
Kotaku wrote a review that came out on Monday about the game. And I'll read one of his experiences. So full credit to Ethan Gotch at Kotaku. This was something that happened to him on the game. He says, to underline how severely dystopian things had gotten, in one playthrough, I actually had to let a child freeze to death to teach him a lesson. On a hunger strike in the cemetery, he said he'd only come back to the children's shelter if I called a town meeting big enough that his mother would wake up and get out of bed and come and attend. There's a problem. His mother was dead. That's why she wasn't getting up and getting out of bed. So if the only way for this child to come to terms with that was to become a fossil, so be it. In Frostpunk, there's no time or resources to indulge in sentimental Hollywood moments like these. You either become a tyrannical dictator, religious autocrat, or you go to an early grave and take your colony with you.
So that was a trap then? Basically, they programmed that into the game to where if you coddled this child, it would hurt way more people than him?
Exactly.
This is disturbing.
Yeah.
I'm super disturbed.
Yeah.
I don't want to play these people's game anymore.
The part about this game, like, I want to watch you play this game, Mark, because you're going to be sitting there on stream just over and over again being like, what are you talking about? This is what I have to do. Are you kidding me? Like, it's the kind of thing where they tell you that you have to do something to move into the next phase and then immediately screw you for making that decision. And you didn't really have a choice. Like, that's the kind of experience you're going to go in for.
It sounds awful.
But like
the challenge is like who can survive the longest. Like that's where things get interesting. Is like, you know, I tried my best. We did this, we did that strategy, and I made it for this long. How long did you get? You could make it competitive.
You turned into Rick from Walking Dead.
No, that's what I'm saying. I think this is like a genocide simulator or a like just a warmonger desensitive. Wait. I give up. I think
desensitizer?
It's desensitizing us. Yes, to do terrible things to one another. But yeah, so our show's run a little long. We can probably wrap it up now. That was a great segment entitled.
Oh, we'll cut that out too.
The Spotlight.
Oh, no.
Moving on.
I'll never not laugh at that.
All right. Are we doing last lives then?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So for last lives this week, let's go ahead and start with Mr. Square.
Oh, all right. I'd just like to shout out to all the Crucible, the podcast Crucible Challenge that's coming up, all the shows from around the community that are interested in doing this. It really is, it makes you feel like, you know, just a little bit of update to the game of Destiny 2, and a lot of people are willing to come back. A lot of people still playing it now, and I'm excited to hop into this. And it's really more about community building than it is destroying each other in the Crucible. At least I hope, because I stink at the Crucible.
But it's just fun times.
Yeah, it's just good times and getting to know each other. So shout out to all those guys over there. We're creating a chat for it. We're organizing and everything, and everybody's being really great about it. So.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I posted it out there as certainly a challenge, right? Throwing down the gauntlet. And I did not know what type of response we would get. And to have, you know, really we invited or posted, and it's all inclusive. We're not cutting anybody out. But out of the ones that I was aware of, we probably sent invites to 28 different podcasts, and we've heard back from like 22 of them that they're in on it. I mean, that's fantastic. And it's amazing that this community has supported 28 different podcasts in itself. Right. So it's going to be very fun to get to know each of those hosts in some friendly competition. And yeah, root for your favorite podcast as we get ready to stream this.
And kudos to you too, Gray, for coming up with that idea. That was a great plan. Yuna and I literally did not know about it until we saw the tweet. Because I was like, he
goes, get ready for some notifications, and I'm like,
I said, get ready for your notifications to blow up, and they're like, what do you mean?
It was like my armpits started sweating immediately. I'm like, we're gonna play Crucible against who?
Yeah,
like
Swain and you guys on your toes.
And oh my gosh, yeah.
All right, last live, Yuna.
So I'm actually going to use my last life to shout out to the good people over at Spearhead Games. They did finally set a date for Omen Sight to come out, which is going to be the 15th of May. Very exciting. They're running a deal where if you pre-order it, it's $20, $19.99. Otherwise, afterwards, it's $30. Definitely, I would say, after demoing it, it's worth it. I'm going to be doing it, and I can't wait to do a full review on that. So
definitely worth $20, guys. Check it out. $20 is a steal for this game.
It is. Yep.
All right. So my last life for Grey Ghost is, I'm actually drawing a blank. I had a great idea for a last life. I got roped into Mark's last life because that was really cool. And
was it Vaseline?
Last life was
Shout
really
out to
good
Vaseline.
The makers of Vaseline. That
oh my gosh.
Changed my
the brother
my
of
handling of
WD-40.
my controller. Yeah, my last life for this week. Man, the problem is I had such a good idea that now I can't remember it.
And we're gonna stop recording and you'll be like, dang.
Nah, that's okay. We're gonna cut most of this out till we get to the end. I'm gonna say, to our G&H producers. Oh no, I know who it was. All right, I figured it out. I remembered who.
Not
it
you
was.
guys. You guys suck.
Not the producers, because you're my default shout out. I give you guys so much credit throughout the week. You don't need a shout out, but my shout out for the week. Thank you, live show, for bearing with me as I got to this. Is to all of our new Twitter followers. We have actually almost doubled in Twitter. My shout out this week goes to all of our new Twitter followers. We have almost doubled in Twitter followers just this month, and that's fantastic. We've obviously been a lot more active on our Twitter. We're doing the Name That Game, the words of the day, wishing you guys a good morning and a good night, trying to really engage and connect with you a little bit better in a more direct manner. So check us out at G&H Show. Everybody else is, and we are very happy that people have come on and are part of this community with us. So we thank you. We certainly appreciate it. It was a fun show this week. I should have started this outro a few seconds ago so that the music would start playing while I was talking, but I didn't. So I'll probably cut in and I'll just say, Jelly, take us out. We can just sit here and bounce to his music. I'm going to overlap it during the actual podcast.
Mark looks totally unamused. He's like...
Thank you, chat, for hanging out with us tonight.
I was getting real tired.
Thanks everyone for tuning in. If you can't catch the live show, then you can find the replays on the Grenades and Horseshoes YouTube channel. If you'd like to stay connected to the community during the week, you can reach us at our show Twitter handle, at G&H Show, or at our individual handles, at @MarkSquare_, at GreyGhost2E, and at Yuna. We're also open to any ideas you may have, or seeing any clips that you would like to send in. Please send the feedback to gnhfeedback@gmail.com. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next week.